I think a lot about loneliness in your 30s. And I don't mean that in sort of like a woe is me, sort of like, first day of school, like I can't fit in kind of thing. I think that's the trouble with your 30s. Like, you know exactly who you are and you know exactly how to fit in, but you're just too goddamn tired. You're just like, you got like the margin of error for other people to enter your life becomes so fucking narrow. So we're a lot more short with each other when people don't immediately fulfill sort of the expectations we have of one another. Like, I often think about relationships that have ended or dissipated or kind of fizzled out in my 30s, and a lot of them you're just sort of like there's this girl that I pine over, and who if and we kind of saw each other in my late 20s, so like it was more dramatic then, but as the years waned on, uh when things didn't work out, it was less like, I remember the first time we like broke up because we weren't really dating. We were just sort of fucking for a long time, which I guess is dating. Depending on who you ask. I talked to some girls. They're like, "You were clearly in a relationship," and I was like, "I saw her like once a month for 5 years." uh, so I remember we like broke up in 2017, 2018, a long time ago, before the pandemic. And I remember I was living in DC at the time. I was like staying in Washington DC, and I had this epiphany that I wanted to be with her. I wanted to stop being a rambling man, trying to find myself in new, exciting cities that weren't all that exciting. Uh, and I like dramatically, like, I left the sublet I was in. I put my bag in the back of my 1995 BMW 525i Olympic Games edition, and I cruised up I-95, and I called her. I was like, "Hey, what are you doing right now? I'm about an hour from the city." She said, "Yeah, I'm around." I'm like, "You want to get a drink?" She's like, "Yeah, let's get a drink." So I pull up to a bar next to her apartment in Williamsburg, and we meet up. I think we go up to her apartment first, and then we go down to the bar. I forget what happened. But anyway, we're sitting there talking, and we're having a beer, and it's like nice, and I'm like, "Ah, this is cool. Yeah, this is what I want." And she's like, "So, listen, I want to see where things go with this other guy." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, like he's looking for like a serious relationship, and like so am I. So I'm gonna see where it goes with him." And I was like, "I was in DC, bitch. I could have stayed there. There was a runner who was giving me good hand jobs, and what the fuck?" I didn't say any of that, but I very stoically got up, finished my beer, put it on the bar, and she's like, "You're not gonna like stay and like wait for me to finish my beer?" I said, "No." And I walked out, got back into my BMW 525i, drove from Williamsburg, Bedford Ave to the West Side Highway, driving back upstate to where I lived. And I put on, I don't know if I put it on or if I think it came on the radio. I think Human League Human came on. And it was like the summer. I think it was like July or June. Nice muggy New York evening, cruising up the West Side Highway, and Human League's Human came on, and I cried my fucking eyes out. I cried my fucking eyes out because it was this culmination of me, like, I almost thought I was an adult, and I was like ready to like commit to this girl, and then like timing, she just, it was just, it did not do. Um, and yeah, it was painful and it was dramatic. It was very emotional, and we continued to see each other. Like, it didn't work out with that guy. Surprise, surprise. And we saw each other for a few more years, uh, until more recently, about 2 years ago now. Um, I once again was like, I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna commit to a relationship. I'm gonna be an adult. I was like working a corporate job. I was working for kayak.com. I had like health insurance. I was like, on my way to being a tech yuppie. And I was like, "Oh, I guess I can like do this and like provide. I can provide, in a way that like, a drifting, late 30s comedian probably can't for a girlfriend, let alone, a wife or kids." And I was like, "All right, maybe I can do this." And uh we like got together for my birthday, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I had Lyme disease, so I just felt like absolute garbage. And our relationship was kind of like fizzling out at that time anyway. I was just this non-committal, wildly aloof individual, which I totally get. Like, I don't blame her, and this is me getting to my point. Um, yeah, we like went out for my birthday. We had a pretty good time, but I was like in excruciating pain. Like this Lyme, if you haven't had Lyme disease, it's fucking horrible. Like just everything hurt. I could barely like. It was fucking terrible. Uh, Fuck COVID commercials. Do commercials about Lyme disease. Um, and then we didn't talk for a couple weeks. I was just like bedridden. I didn't know why I was sick. I didn't know that I had Lyme disease yet. And then I got an email from her titled "A Difficult Email," and I never read it. Never read it to this day. I just read the first two sentences that said something about timing, and it just sounded so clinical. And once again, going back to her whole I need a serious relationship. I need a real relationship, which to me is like, what is a real relationship? A real relationship is one that persists, no matter, in spite of these other things. And I get, and trust me, I'm not that fucking boy that I was then. I understand what another person may need, or at the very least be able to. I don't need to justify my shit to you. Fuck you. But anyway, I have grown up quite a bit, I feel, in terms of relationships, and I'm way more open to the more traditional aspects of them. But anyway, to be dumped via email by this bitch again, I was like, you know what? So there was no human league crying. I wanted to feel that. And I think the thing that I was sad about this time was what could have been in terms of the more logistical aspects of it. And as we get older, and like we start to sense more of our mortality and less of our, and we start to feel a little bit of that loss of vitality, you're like, oh, I understand growing old with someone, because it's literally that for some people. Like, we decay, and being an invincible 25-year-old, of course I'm gonna want to fucking travel the country and fuck everyone I can. No shit. And I would encourage everyone who's that age to do exactly that. But when you become 35, 36, you're like, not only you might still be able to physically do that. I kind of feel like I'm not, but you don't want to. You don't want to do that as much for a lot of reasons, for various reasons. And now the irony is that I'm a little bit more oriented towards a relationship, but now it's too late with her. Or maybe I just like get healthy as fuck and I go back to being the Rolling Stone that I am. And then, again, this makes me sound like I'm just like some degenerate, just like looking for meaningless sex. It's not who I am anymore, per se. I mean, if you're watching this and you want to like get a drink, I'm down. But yeah, men and women grow up at different rates. It's true. We always have, we've men and women just mature and grow at different frequencies, at different velocities. So, and that's okay. But it's dramatic, or it feels less dramatic now. It feels like logistically, it feels like it feels like a funeral for good decision. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Anyway, I was sad, still kind of am, but whatever. Anyway, cheers.